record this. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Carroll, and I'm going to introduce this series. But first, I'm going to hand it over to Leah, to give an introduction to the various language channels and talk about language justice for a few moments.
Hola, bienvenidos. Soy Lía, estoy aquí con mis cointérpretes para interpretar entre inglés, español y el lenguaje de señas estadounidense. Y estamos trabajando con un marco que se llama la justicia del lenguaje. Welcome, everybody. My name is Leah, and I'm here today with my co-interpreters to interpret between English, Spanish, and ASL. And we're working within a framework called language justice. La justicia del lenguaje incluye el compromiso de asegurarnos de que todas las personas puedan participar en la conversación y un respeto para los derechos lingüísticos de todas las comunidades. Language justice includes the commitment to ensuring that all people can participate in the conversation and the respect for the language rights of all communities. Para acceder a los subtítulos en inglés, haga clic en el enlace que encontrará en el chat y por favor avísenos si necesita apoyo en acceder al enlace. Y un aviso, esta sesión está siendo grabada. To access captions in English, please follow the link that you will find in the chat. And please let us know if you need support accessing that link. And a note that this session is being recorded. La presentación de hoy tomará lugar en inglés y durante la sesión de preguntas y respuestas usaremos inglés, español y el lenguaje de señas estadounidense activamente. Entonces las personas que prefieren escuchar en español o inglés podrán escoger su canal de idioma en unos pocos momentos. Today's presentation will take place in English, and during the Q&A session, we'll be using English, Spanish, and ASL actively. People who prefer to listen in Spanish or English will be able to select your preferred language channel in a couple moments. Estaremos usando la función de interpretación de Zoom que ya está activada. Entonces, si está en una computadora, verá un icono de un mapamundi que dice interpretación en la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom. Deben seleccionar este mapamundi y seleccionar español. Si está en una tableta o teléfono inteligente, es un poco diferente. Hay que buscar ese botón con 3 puntos blancos que dice más. Ahí van a dar clic, aparece un menú y pueden seleccionar interpretación y luego español. Y hay que darle en finalizado o finalizar interpretación para activar la interpretación. So if you, we will be using the Zoom interpreting feature, which is already activated. So if you are on a computer, you will see the icon of a globe that says interpretation at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Click there and choose English. And if you are on we can go to the next slide. If you are on a tablet or smartphone, it is different. You'll look for the 3 dots, the button with 3 dots that says more. Then from the menu, choose interpretation and then select English and then click done to activate the interpreting. Sí, también vamos a dejar aquí esta diapositiva que muestra cómo seleccionar su idioma de español en el teléfono. Si no pueden escuchar, en cualquier momento, si no puede escuchar al intérprete en su canal, por favor pida ayuda en el chat o levante la mano. If you cannot hear the interpreter or you have any trouble at any point, please ask for help in the chat or raise your hand. Ahora vamos a comenzar la interpretación simultánea para hacer una prueba de la función de interpretación. Por favor, elija su canal de idioma si prefiere escuchar la interpretación en español. Y por favor, en cualquier momento, si tienen dificultades o no pueden ver los botones, por favor, háganos saber vía la caja de chat o al levantar la mano. We will now start the simultaneous interpreting to test the interpreting feature. Please choose your language channel if you prefer to listen in English. And please let us know at any time if you have any trouble or if you cannot find the buttons. I'm going to speak a little bit more in English. Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear the interpreter on the Spanish channel. And I do see my interpreter there. And ahora voy a hablar un poco en español. Y por favor, levante el pulgar si pueden escuchar al intérprete en el canal de inglés.
The
Y
English
también
channel,
veo
and
ahí.
I do see that
Entonces
that's
usaremos
happening.
interpretación
So
simultánea
we
para
will
el
use
resto de este
simultaneous
anuncio.
interpretation for the
Ahora
rest of
todas las
this
personas
announcement.
que
So
prefieren
everyone
participar
who
en un solo
wishes
idioma
to
deben estar
participate
en un
in a
canal de
language
idioma.
should have selected a
Las
language
personas
channel.
que hablan ambos
Those
idiomas, inglés y
who are
español,
bilingual in
pueden dejar
Spanish and
la
English
función de interpretación apagada
do not
o
have to
pueden elegir
select a
un canal.
channel, or they can
Si
if they
usted no
wish
puede
to.
escuchar al
If
intérprete,
you are
por
not
favor,
able to
use la
hear the
caja de chat
interpreter,
para pedir ayuda.
use the chat to let us know and ask for
Es
help.
la responsabilidad de todos
It's
cuidar
the
de la comunicación
responsibility of
equitativa en
everyone
un espacio
to
multilingüe.
ensure
Quisiera compartir unos recordatorios de
equitable
comunicación.
communication. You may receive reminders
Si está en un
occasionally.
canal de idioma, por
So if
favor,
you are
hable
in
en ese
a
idioma.
language channel, make sure that the language you
Pueden
speak
hacer clic
matches
en
it.
silenciar audio original si prefiere escuchar solamente al intérprete.
And
Por favor, silencie su micrófono cuando no
make
esté
sure that
hablando.
you silence your microphone if you
Hable
are
a un
not
ritmo
speaking.
moderado y haga
Speak at a
pausas con
moderate pace
frecuencia.
and take frequent
Diga su
pauses.
nombre antes de
Tell
hablar.
us your name before speaking.
Solamente una persona debe hablar a la vez.
And so only
Y
one
use la
person should
caja
be
de chat
speaking
para
at a time,
recibir
and use
ayuda.
the chat to ask for
Ahí
help.
tenemos también en la diapositiva los
And we
recordatorios
have
para el
those
espacio
reminders
multilingüe.
here on the screen as well,
Las
on the
personas
slide.
que entienden español habrán notado que estamos usando la
Those of
terminación
you
E en vez de la tradicional
who
A
speak
y U.
Spanish
Por
will
ejemplo, cuando
know,
decimos bienvenidos
notice
al
that we are
anuncio.
using
Esto no es un error de pronunciación,
an
sino un
E,
esfuerzo intencional de crear espacios
and it is an
inclusivos y
intentional
evitar suponer
practice
el género de
to
las personas.
create a
Quisiéramos
non-gendered
reconocer todos los idiomas que se usan
language
aquí, incluyendo las
to
lenguas
include
criollas
everyone.
y patuá y otros idiomas multilingües y también
We
los
want to
idiomas de los
recognize
pueblos
all the
indígenas de
languages
las
here
tierras no
today,
cedidas que cada persona aquí
and
habita.
also
Damos la
recognize that we are
bienvenida a
on
los
unceded
sobrevivientes más allá de las que
Native
estamos
American land.
interpretando hoy. Por favor, de autointerpretarse si desea hacerlo.
You may
Gracias a los
interpret
organizadores
yourself
de
if
este
you wish to
espacio
do
por
so.
hacer posible
And
que
thank you to the
estemos aquí.
organizers
Nos da
for
mucho
making
gusto
this
poder
possible.
apoyar esta
We're
conversación,
thankful to
ya
be
que
able to
sentimos
support
una
this
fuerte
conversation.
solidaridad con el trabajo
We
que
feel
hacen.
strongly
Muchísimas gracias.
solid,
Ya
a
se la
strong
paso
solidarity with the work that they
para
are
empezar.
taking on. So we can get started now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just give me one moment. Thank you. My name is Stephanie Carroll. I'm the Directing Attorney with Public Counsel's Consumer Rights and Economic Justice Project. This series of webinars is brought to you by a collaborative of legal services organisations, including Tzedek, East LA Community Corporation, Housing and Economic Rights Advocates, the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, National Housing Law Project, Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles, One Justice, and Public Counsel. Tonight is the first webinar in our consumer series and will be presented by Elizabeth Gonzalez, Senior Supervising Attorney and expert in debt collection and bankruptcy law here at Public Counsel. The session is being recorded in English and Spanish and will be made available on our website and those of our partners. Please let us know if there's another language you or your community needs. When we are sharing screens, you will see the slides and the presenter side by side. You can use the white tab in the middle of the screen as a slider to shift the size of the screen share or the speakers. Please note we are all learning tonight. We are committed to language justice and accessibility, and we're constantly trying to improve our practices. Bear with us if there are any delays or technical glitches. If you have access needs we're not currently meeting, we would love to hear from you. After the presentation, we will do our best to answer your questions. Our preference is for you to put questions in the chat or in the Q&A section of the screen in English or in Spanish. If you prefer to sign or speak your question, you can raise your hand and we will give you permission to open your microphone or video to share your question. Please keep your questions as brief as possible. If we don't get to all the questions, we will post the questions and answers where we have them on our website in a frequently asked questions document. Please note this is a Know Your Rights presentation. It is not intended to be legal advice. If you have a legal problem, you should always consult with an attorney separately. And now I will hand it over to Elizabeth for our presentation.
Thank you. Like Steph said, my name is Elizabeth Gonzalez, and I'm going to provide some information to all of you about managing debt and debt collectors when you are a disaster survivor. I will say that this is not the information that's being provided today can be helpful in the future, and we hope that you take this with you and come back to us if you have any questions in the future. The first thing that I really want to encourage right now is that you take care of yourself. You have been through a lot, and it is very stressful to deal with debt and with debt collectors. So the first thing that I really do want to emphasize is if you do not want to or cannot talk to a debt collector or your credit card company, you don't have to. If you cannot afford to pay your credit cards or your personal loans, you don't have to. There are both state and federal laws that can protect you, your bank, and your income. While I usually don't just read off of slides, I do want to acknowledge that those of you who have survived the last few really difficult weeks have been through a lot, and I hope that you find it somewhat helpful that we have the slides for you and we're also providing the same information verbally. It's not that I want to be repetitive. I just really want to make sure that you come away from this presentation carrying some of the information with you. Okay? One of the first things that I want to share with you is a lot of credit cards actually offer purchase insurance. That can be something like if you buy something and it breaks, your credit card company may refund you the price of the product that you broke. Some credit card companies offer something more, where if your product or the thing that you purchased was stolen or perhaps lost in a natural disaster, you might have coverage on your credit card and not even know it. I want to acknowledge that a lot of us may have purchased a lot of items in the month or two before the fires because of the holidays. And so this is a good time to, if you have the time and energy, to reach out to your credit card companies and see if they have purchase insurance. But you don't have to explain why. The reason you don't have to explain why is if you explain to the credit card company, I'm calling to find out if the thing that I bought that was destroyed in the fire is covered. That might be you admitting to charges that were made on your account. And especially after a disaster, you want to be careful that you know what's on your account charges. So you might not have all of the information that you need right now to really confirm, did I make this purchase? Did I not? So all you need to do is just ask, hey, does my credit card come with any purchase insurance? And can you tell me what that's about? Once you have that time and that energy to really do a little bit more review of your accounts, definitely take some time to review your account statements and any especially pending charges. Unfortunately, after a disaster, survivors are at risk of identity theft, fraud, charges that are not authorized. So take a look at your statements. If you don't have access to them online, or if you lost them in the fire and do not have access online, you can absolutely reach out to your credit card company and ask them to send you a paper statement. And immediately, or as soon as you can, dispute any charges that you do not recognize. There are laws that will protect you from having to pay charges that you did not authorize, but there are time limits in which you have to dispute those charges. If you were carrying a balance on your credit cards or on loans, and you were current, meaning you were making your monthly payments on time before the fires, but you can't pay them now, the first thing that I would suggest is reach out to your creditors. You can ask your creditors for a forbearance or a pause in payments and ask that they do that without charging you any interest or any penalties. A lot of creditors are offering these forbearances. You just have to ask for them. If you were behind on your debts before the fires, if you still cannot pay, don't pay. If you are interested in making a payment, say because you had some relief coming to you and you want to use some of that money to pay the credit cards and the loans, before making that payment, I would encourage you to reach out and make an appointment with the free legal clinic just to look at your options. The reason is, especially if you were behind on your debts for a long time before the fires, you might never actually have to pay those debts. There are time limits that a creditor has to sue you. And if they go beyond that time limit, they might not be able to force you to pay. So a free legal clinic can help you determine your rights and see if maybe you don't actually have to pay these debts. Unfortunately, there is no way for us to stop all debt collectors from contacting everybody. However, if there is a debt collector contacting you or one starts contacting you in the future, there are laws that protect you. These laws will limit what debt collectors can do or say to collect a debt. And you actually have the right to ask a debt collector to stop contacting you. You also have the right to ask a debt collector for more information about the debt. Remember earlier I said that unfortunately, survivors of natural disasters are often targeted for scams, for unauthorized purchases. So you should ask for more information about any debt that a debt collector is trying to pay, because it might not be your debt. So lesson one, so to speak, is if you have a debt collector that contacts you, find out more about the debt. You can ask for the name of the creditor, because the person that's calling you might not be working for the credit card company. You want to find out how much they say that you owe and how you can dispute the debt. These are things that if the debt collector does not know the answers to or is refusing to give that information to you, they might be part of a scam, or they might be trying to collect a debt that you do not owe. So, lesson two, never give financial or personal information to a debt collector. This is only a session on managing debt, but I would encourage you to remember this for many other situations. If someone is calling and asking you for your social security number, your mother's maiden name, your date of birth, I would not give that information out. If you feel the need to provide such information, at least make sure that you know that whoever is calling you is legitimate, okay? In the context of debt collection, you want to make sure that they can provide those basic pieces of information: the name of the creditor, the amount that they say you owe, how to dispute the debt, before you provide personal information to them. But even if you think, you know what, I think this is a legitimate debt collector, you still don't have to provide them any information. In order to better determine for yourself, is this a debt that I owe? Is the amount correct? You have the right to request proof of this debt, okay? You can request a copy of documents related to your account in writing, and you can dispute the debt while you wait to receive and review those documents. Said another way, you don't have to wait to get the written copies before you tell the debt collector, I am disputing this debt because I don't have enough information to know whether it's accurate. And especially now, use that tool, because you don't know and you may not have the information to let you confirm whether or not you owe money to a specific company and how much. Things to remember: these laws that I mentioned earlier that protect you from debt collectors. If a debt collector calls you, demands payment right now, and says something like, if you don't pay right now, you're going to go to jail. If you don't pay right now, we're going to walk to your house. We've got somebody right down the street ready to serve you with a lawsuit. Or they use abusive or harassing language, hang up. They are trying to scare you into paying. And a debt collector who is following the law knows they are not allowed to say these things. So if someone is doing this to collect a debt, more likely than not, they're not legitimate or they don't have the proof that you need to know whether or not you actually owe this debt. To be clear, you cannot be sent to jail if you don't pay a credit card or a loan. I'm going to say that again. You cannot go to jail for not paying a credit card or a loan. Your wages cannot be garnished and money cannot be taken from your bank account to pay a credit card or a loan if there is not a judgment against you. A credit card company, a personal loan from a bank, these companies are not allowed to just go in and take your wages or take your money from your bank account. They have to file a lawsuit and get a judgment before they can do that. Even if they file that lawsuit, or even if they get that judgment, your income and your bank account is probably going to be protected. Public Counsel and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau have letters that you can use to communicate with a debt collector. If you would like copies of those letters, please call Public Counsel. The number is on the slide. You can also visit the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Their website is listed on the slide as well. I will also be providing some links for you near the end of the slide deck to hopefully make it easier for you just to click and go to those websites. If you are being sued, if you received the lawsuit before the fires and you have not responded, call the phone number for the attorneys on the complaint and ask for at least a 30-day extension to respond. On the next couple of slides, I'm going to show you where you can find that phone number. But I want to clarify, if you or someone in your home was not handed the lawsuit personally, you may not have to do anything. If you just found a lawsuit in your mail, but no one in your house and you did not get it handed to you at your door, if you got a letter in the mail saying, it looks like you have been sued, but nobody handed you a complaint, you may not have to do anything. Not even call the attorneys on the other side for an extension. So there are two complaint forms that debt collectors tend to use. This is one of them. You'll see where the red arrow is, there's a little, there's highlighted, I put the highlight there for a phone number. If you receive a complaint that looks like this, please reach out to the attorneys using the phone number on the complaint. Ask for that extension of time. The other way that you might see a complaint is one that looks like this. As you can see, the name and the phone number of the attorney are still on the top left. So hopefully these two slides will help you know where you can find the contact information for the attorneys so that you can reach out to get more time to respond. If there was already a judgment entered against you, you may still have some options. If that judgment was entered in the last 6 months, you may be able to ask a judge to remove or get rid of that judgment. This is especially true if you did not know that you had to respond to the lawsuit. A lot of times when someone receives a lawsuit, they don't just receive the lawsuit. They receive 20 or 30 or 40 pages of stuff. And it can be very confusing. And there are dates that may make it seem like, oh, I don't have to do anything for a year. If there was a judgment entered because you thought you didn't have to do anything, you might be able to get that judgment removed. If a judgment was entered since the fire started, the plaintiff or its attorneys may agree to remove that judgment if you ask them to. So if you see that there was a judgment January 7th, 8th, and since, you can reach out to those attorneys and say, I'm a survivor of the wildfires. I saw that you entered a judgment. Please remove it so that I can defend myself. I cannot make any promises, but I would like to think that that judgment will be removed if you ask. If they don't, you can request the judge to remove the judgment. And I don't see a reason why the judge would not. So again, if there was a judgment entered against you, you don't necessarily have to worry about someone coming after you. There are ways to get the judgment removed. If there has been a judgment entered and you just are accepting that the judgment exists, or you don't have the energy to ask anyone to remove it, you still have protections of your wages and your income. Currently, the state of California protects at least $792 per week of your disposable income. What does disposable mean? It means your gross pay minus required deductions like taxes. So what's left over after those required deductions is your disposable income. If that amount is $792 a week or less, your paycheck cannot be garnished to collect a judgment. This amount increases every time the minimum wage goes up. So this is the basic. If you work in a city where the minimum wage is higher than the state minimum wage, this number also increases. If you have more income than is automatically protected, there are ways to protect the rest. So I don't want you to think, my goodness, my paycheck is more than this $792 per week. I'm going to lose everything. No. Okay. Again, we're going to give you contact information to reach out to free legal clinics, legal services organizations that can help if you are worried about a wage garnishment. There are also automatic protections for money in your bank account. If the only money in your bank account is government benefits, Social Security, for example, VA benefits, the bank is going to automatically protect 2 months worth of those benefits. So you don't have to worry if you have less than 2 months. This protection is only automatic if that's the only money in your account. So if you deposited $100 from Venmo, you're not going to have this automatic protection. However, you are going to have the automatic protection of $2,170 of any source of funds. This is a bottom line. Your bank account is going to be protected that amount. And that amount changes every July 1st. It usually goes up. If you have more than $2,170 in your bank account, that doesn't mean that the rest is going to be taken and you have no right to it. Just like there's a way to protect more of your wages, there's a way to protect more money in your bank account. If you have questions on those methods, you can ask them in the chat today, or you can reach out to us and get more information. So if you would like to speak with an attorney for free about your options, including if you want help responding to a complaint or protecting those wages, please give Public Counsel a call or reach out to another legal services organization. You can get help for free. You don't have to pay so long as you meet some pretty generous income guidelines. So call us. We'll let you know if you don't qualify for services. We do have some self-help. Other organizations have some self-help that they can provide you, even if you don't qualify for full services. I've put the numbers of the 3 organizations that I know for sure, I hope I'm right, do some debt collection assistance. So these are on the slides. You can reach out to them. We also have some slides coming up that will provide you information about the other organizations' websites. Steph, I think that's all I have to say. Do I pass it back to you?
Yes, if you can just go through, there's a couple of slides of additional resources and then go to the website page.
Yes, sorry. The additional resources that I have right here, there are some no contact letters in English and Spanish that you can send out to creditors to tell them to stop communicating with you. On the consumer finance side, these are this website has different letters to send out to creditors depending on whether you have questions about the debt, you were the victim of identity theft, you want people to stop contacting you. And then if you would like paper copies of these resources on these links, let us know. We also have guides on how to respond to a complaint, how to get an extension of time. Here we go. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you. These are the websites of all the organizations involved in this collaboration. The one that's highlighted is the organization that presented to you tonight. And there is also an email address there for G Guidetti, that is GGUIDETTI at publiccounsel.org. Public Counsel is PUBLICCOUNSEL. Please reach out to that email address if you have any feedback for us. And now I'd like to open it up for questions. So people can raise their hand and ask a question. And if we don't have any questions, I will ask. I know there are some other legal services organisations here, and if any of those folks would like to speak and talk about their services, I would welcome that. I don't see any questions right now. So I don't know if Skip might want to talk about the services from Neighbourhood Legal Services.
Yeah, I just really quickly, I know that the focus of this is on consumer issues. I just want to say that if anybody was impacted by either or any of the fires that have taken place over the last several weeks here in Southern California, you can reach out to any of the organizations you see. Well, you can reach out to our organization, Neighborhood Legal Services, Public Counsel, LAFLA, Tzedek, or ICLC for any other services, including consumer. But also, I strongly recommend that if you have any needs to visit the disaster recovery centers, there's one on the west side for those that were impacted by the Palisades fires, and the recently opened Altadena Disaster Recovery Center for those impacted by the Eaton fires. The disaster recovery centers provide great resources, both from state, local, and federal government, FEMA, small business. All of the state and local agencies are there, along with a number of NGOs like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army. There's all in, and legal aid is there. Our office is in the Altadena Disaster Recovery Center, and LAFLA is staffing the one on the west side. So please visit any of those centers if you have any needs arising out of the fires. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Skip. Is there anybody else who wishes to ask a question or be heard?
I will say that Public Counsel has 3 clinics coming up, 2 next week, one the week 2 weeks later, to help with any debt collection issues. We also have weekly bankruptcy clinics. So if you don't even know that you might need help, you're welcome to give us a call, and we can ask you some questions to see if there's something that we can do to assist. And I'm now just realizing that this is going to be recorded and put on the website, so I will make a note that this is being recorded on January 30th. So if this is beyond February 17th, we don't have those clinics next week.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Well, thank you everyone for staying with us through this presentation, and thank you especially to Elizabeth, our presenter, and to all our interpreters this evening for a remarkable job, and who have provided their services at a solidarity rate, in solidarity with the folks affected by this terrible fire. We will be putting these recordings on our website within the next couple of days. So please come back, and we'll be providing them to all the legal services organisations in the collaborative. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.